If you've ever used Generative Fill in Photoshop, you probably already know that it's often hit or miss, and all too often you'll have more misses than you will hits. Well, over the past several days, I've been working with Generative Fill in Photoshop, and I think I've developed some techniques that will give you more hits than misses, and that's what we're going to be covering in this video. In this video, we're going to be working on this image. It's an Adobe stock image, obviously, of a woman in a park. What I want to do is I want to make her a doctor and put her in the hospital. Now, to do that, we're going to use Generative Fill several times. First of all, I want to use Generative Fill to change her clothing. Now, whenever you use Generative Fill, you have to make a selection, and there are some debates out there about whether or not you should use a loose selection or you should use a very tight, exact selection. And to tell you the truth, there are some instances where a tight selection works better than a loose selection and vice versa. Now, to change someone's clothes, like I want to change her out of the clothing she's wearing and put her in hospital scrubs, what I found is a loose selection works best. To do a loose selection, you most often would use the lasso tool. The keyboard shortcut for lasso tool is the L key. By the way, I have a full list of Photoshop keyboard shortcuts. It's a downloadable PDF that you can get from my website for free. I'll have it listed in the description below this video. So we have the lasso tool, and we want to do a loose selection around her clothing. So it's pretty much going to do this loose selection around her body. We'll start up here. It might be easier. So we're going to start around her neck area here. Come down around her shoulder. You can see it's just a super loose selection in this case. Across the bottom, then across this way, and over her shoulder this way, and around her neck. And then we're going to complete our selection right there. And I have the marching ants. Now we click on Generative Fill. Then in this box, we want to put what type of clothing you want her to wear. In this case, I'm going to write Doctor Scrubs. Just like that, and click Generate. Now, if you're not familiar with Generative Fill, what's happening is the image is being sent up to Adobe servers, and all the work is being done up there. When done, it's going to return 3 different examples that I could choose from. And you can see here's one example. She's wearing some blue scrubs, and here's another example. And here's a third example. Now, often, you'll come through and you'll look, well, none of these look that great. Her fingers look funny in all of them. You could click Generate again. Click right here, and it will go up, and it will again send the image up to Adobe servers and give us 3 more examples. And what you'll often find is one is almost perfect, but there's going to be something wrong with it. Okay, here's another example here, and here's one here. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we liked this one, but her fingers are messed up, all right? Let's just go through them again. Actually, man, that one's not even good. Okay, this one might be a little better, but see how her fingers are still messed up? What I found is that you could fix it. Just do Generative Fill again, and do it right on this Generative Fill layer. So use the lasso tool, and we're going to come up here, we're going to get part of the stethoscope there and get this hand here like this, and we'll come in and do that, and then click Generative Fill again. Don't type anything here, and click Generate. Now again, it's going to send the entire image up to Adobe servers, and it's going to know that you don't like the look of her hand that is in that area and the stethoscope. And again, it will give us 3 different examples, and that one looks pretty good. Now, let's move the contextual taskbar out of the way. She has some bangles on her wrist here. That's okay, but this hand right here doesn't look right. So we're going to fix this. Again, we're going right on the Generative Fill layer, and we're going to click Generative Fill. We're not going to type anything. We're going to click Generate. So what I'm getting at is when you do have a Generative Fill example that you like, but there's something just a little bit off about it, just circle that area, and right on that Generative Fill layer, do it again. And in this case, that one. So we used it twice, or did Generative Fill 2 more times to fix those areas we didn't like. And so far, it looks pretty good. All right, now I want to take her out of the park and put her in a hospital. Again, should we use a tight selection or a loose selection? And again, should we just do it like on top and not do anything? What else? Well, what I found is that Generative Fill, outside of the fixes that I did, and when I fixed her hands, right? If you're not doing any fixes, if you're going to use Generative Fill, like in its entirety again, where Photoshop's going to look at the entire image, it's best to either flatten these layers. You would do that by going up to Layer and all the way down here to Flatten Image, or put a stamped layer on top. I prefer to put a stamp layer on top. There is a convoluted keyboard shortcut for that. If you have a PC, a Windows computer, you would hold in the Shift key along with Alt, Control, and E. So Shift, Alt, Control, E. On a Mac, it's Shift, Option, Command, E. When you do that, it will just stamp all those layers together and put a stamp layer on top. Now, as I mentioned, I want to take her out of the park and put her in the hospital. Well, if you try to use a loose selection, it won't work, and I'm going to show you. What you would do is you would do a loose selection around her entire body, but since you really don't want to do anything to her, you want to do everything to the background, you would do the loose selection around her body, then you would invert that selection so everything else but her body is selected. And to do that, I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. I'm going to hit Command minus on my Mac a couple times. It's Control minus on the PC. It's just easier to draw now around her entire body because I don't have to use as large movements of my mouse. So we'll just do a selection like this. Now this is a loose selection, right? And I just want to illustrate to you why this won't work as well. So we have our selection. I'm going to fit it to screen again by hitting Command 0 on my Mac, Control 0 on the PC. So I have our loose selection. We're going to invert it. Hit Shift Command I on a Mac, Shift Control I on a PC. Now it may not look like it inverted, but it did. You can see there's marching ants along the outside. And we're going to click on Generative Fill again. And in the contextual taskbar, let me move this. Right here, we're going to put a hospital hallway. All right, and we're going to click Generate. Now, again, it sends the image up to Adobe servers, and again, it will come back with 3 different examples of her supposedly being in a hospital hallway. And you could see that it didn't. It put her outside the hospital. Not what I wanted at all. And it's going to do this, believe me, it's going to do this every single time. If you want her inside of the hospital, you could try typing inside hospital hallway. It's still going to do the same thing. And I have to trust me on that because that's what it did. So I hit Command Z a few times to undo that. I'm going to get rid of these marching ants or get rid of our selection by hitting Command D for deselect on my computer. It's Control D on a PC. So we're kind of back to where we started after I made the stamped layer. What I found is an exact selection works best when you want to change the background. So what to do? Well, go to the contextual taskbar and see it says Select Subject. If you don't see the contextual taskbar, go up to Window and make sure that it's checked right there. You also could select the subject by going up to Select and down to Subject. When you do, you'll get an exact selection of the subject of the image. In this case, it's our woman that's still in the park. Now, the subject isn't perfect because it didn't select this part of her leg right here. So we're going to get the quick selection tool. The keyboard shortcut's the W key. Again, you see I use keyboard shortcuts all the time. I encourage you to download that free PDF of keyboard shortcuts I have. We'll just come in here and make sure that that's selected. Now, I mentioned this is an exact selection, and we could make it even a bit better. When you have any of the selection tools open, just hit W on your keyboard and you'll have one of these 3 selection tools. You'll have this Select and Mask button up here. Click on that. And you can see that I have a red overlay view. You could change your view over here. Often I use red or black. Then what I'll do is I'll go in, I'll refine hair. I'll just click that and you can see it made her hair a little better. Then all you need to do then is just invert it. Click Invert button right here. Now it's selected everything but the lady in the middle. Leave it, I'll put to selection and click OK. So we have an exact selection of the background. This will work best when we want to replace the background. Click on Generative Fill and put in here Hospital Hallway. Alright, and click Generate. Now again, sending it up to Adobe servers, and you should see now when it comes back that you'll be inside of the hospital. When you do that loose selection for some reason, it's just referencing too much of the outdoor scene, and it won't like get rid of the outdoors for you. You have to totally select everything that's outside so that you could get her better inside of the hospital. Let's say you like that one, or you like that one. Probably this one's a little better, and then you could go with that. So we started with this, and we ended up with that. And that's it. That's how to kind of best use Generative Fill. The main things are that if you want to change someone's clothing, now I changed all her clothing, so I selected her entire body. You could change someone's top only or someone's pants only. Just do a loose selection around that area that you want changed. Type in exactly what you want. In this case, I mentioned I wanted Dr. Scrubs. And then when it comes back, if there's a part of that Generative Fill that doesn't look right, in the case her hands didn't look right, just circle that little part with the lasso tool, those little parts, and then Generative Fill again without typing anything into the box. Like, don't type in fix hand or anything like that. Just leave it blank. Then, if you need to make sure that you want to take them totally out of a scene and put them in a different scene, do an exact selection for that. That works better. And make sure that you're inverting the selection so that the subject isn't selected, that entire background is selected like I did, and this is what you'll end up with. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.